Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Sound check. Okay, we look like we are good to go. Welcome everybody to CanHammer TV. Exciting times. Lots of marine stuff coming out. Welcome Archon Prankster. Thanks for joining. And lots to talk about. And of course tonight I am debuting my Tactica series for Custodes. So yeah, we'll come to that in a second. That will be the bulk of the episode. But just a few other things to run down and talk about today. And of course, don't miss tomorrow night's live stream game. Paintin's farewell game. He will be leaving Ottawa soon to fly to Calgary. So he'll be leaving us in the area. So we're having a final stream for him and play a final game before he goes. So it's sad to see people go, especially nice people who are good players and help run local tournaments. So sad to see Paintin go, but good luck to him in Calgary. We'll have one final bash tomorrow night. So tonight we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk very briefly about the new White Dwarf. Then at the end of the show, if you survive that long, we have 3 books to give away. The new Marine Codex, the White Scar Supplement, and the Ultramarine Supplement. So 3 books to give away at the end of this show. And then next week, we're going to have the next 2 supplements to give away, Raven Guard and Iron Hands. And then the week after that probably is going to be, or 2 weeks, is going to be Fists and Salamanders. So we got lots of things to give away, so do tune in. Hi, Marshall. Welcome. I want to say a special hello to people joining me from our new Custodes chat. So I'm in a number of patron groups because I try and support other people doing things in the community. So I'm a member of Knights Pro, and I'm a member of Biff Pod. I'm a member of the Chapter Tactics Patreon. I'm a member of a bunch of things, Scary's thing. So I'm a member of a bunch of patron groups, and each of these has a Discord chat, and each of these, most of them, have a channel for discussing Imperium or Custodes. And so what I ended up doing was discussing Custodes in like 4 different places, often the same thing over and over again, and trying to keep up with 4 different chats, which was kind of frustrating and time consuming. So what I decided to do was, and these people can't join these other ones because they're all pay gated. These are all patron chats. So what I decided to do on the CanHammer Discord, which was fairly, which is free and it's fairly, people don't really use it very much, is I made a Custodes chat, and put up the link to that in all of these various chats and say, look, I'm trying to consolidate everybody who wants to talk Custodes into one place that's free, so you can continue to support your people that you support. But if you want to talk Custodes, come on to this chat. And lo and behold, we got like 90 people or something on this channel now, and there's Custodes chat going on all the time, which is great. And so that's worked out quite well. Archon, I will, maybe someone can link it up to you, or I will get you to link somehow. I don't know, because I Discord on my phone and I don't know how to get that onto the computer for you right now. But if you message me or something, I can send it to you. But so that's been really good. Lots of Custodes talk. Lots of the time. We have good players in there. We've got Shane. I'm trying to convince Eric to get on there. We've got, I don't recognize some people by their Discord name, unfortunately. But we have some, there's lots of talk in there on Custodes, so it's great. We have occasional hater, like Nick Blackburn. But yeah, so it's good, and it's livened up our chat, and I hope people continue to use it. So, as a result of this chat, it has been requested of me to do a channel on, to do like at first it was suggested that I write or produce some kind of FAQ for Custodes, so answers to commonly asked questions like, is the battalion worth it? How many CP do I need? How good is 2 Caladius versus 3 Caladius? Is this any good anymore? Is this good anymore? Lots of the common questions about Custodes. And so instead of doing that, I thought I would just do, because I don't have a lot of time to type, I don't have a blog, so I thought I would just produce a series of videos about tactics, covering units and tactics about Custodes. And then I was like, I don't really have time to produce an extra video series. When I've tried to do that in the past for the YouTube channel, it just peters off because I run out of time to do these things. So then I decided to just talk about it in CanHammer TV as a small segment each time, and then what I can do, and then I have a playlist on YouTube where I put all my live streams, and then there's a Custodes one that points out all the Custodes episodes, and then so people can easily find it. And what I'll do is I'll timestamp when we start the Tactica talks. So if you're just coming from that, fast forward to the timestamp down below and it'll take you straight there. So that's where that coming from, the Custodes Tactica, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So what I'd like to do first is to commiserate. So about the time that the White Dwarf for this month was leaked, there was all this Space Marine stuff going on. Space Marines, amazing. And then they're like, oh, look, White Dwarf. And then the White Dwarf before this was like a picture of Dark Angels. So everyone was like, oh yeah, Dark Angels is going to get some shit in the White Dwarf. And then so we get this White Dwarf, and it is literally just fluff. It is fluff on Dark Angels, and all the fluff that Dark Angels players already know. It's not like any of this is new. There's pictures of Dark Angels models and shit, and then there is some free rules in here for Dark Angels if you play this mission, and then you can have these extra stratagems. So unfortunately, Dark Angels players, disappointment. You're gonna have to wait a little bit longer till the real Marines get all their rules. So that's unfortunate. So welcome to Hi Marshall in the chat, Fire Drake, and Nick Blackburn, the aforementioned Caladius hater. So that's too bad for Dark Angels, but we're all supposed to be getting something for this Psychic Awakenings. There's been lots of speculation as to what various factions are getting. We already seen the new Exarch, Howling Banshee Exarch, which is cool, and it's plastic. And the dude with like the double blade that people have been memeing into a rower on a canoe. The Clave X for Drukhari. And apparently there's something big coming next week for Drukhari or something. So that will be interesting. But we'll see. Everybody should be getting some shit. So that's very exciting, and hope to see how that unfolds in the future. So now I want to talk a little bit about some events we got coming up. So we announced earlier this week, CanHammer Team Tournament. Registration opens October 2nd at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And the reason why it has to be so precise is because often it sells out quite quickly. And so I let people know the exact time at which I will be enabling signups. So if you don't know, CanHammer Team Tournament is one of our 2 big events that we run. One is Capital City Bloodbath. The other is the CanHammer Team Tournament. This started as a fantasy tournament years ago and now is a 40K ETC-style 5-man team tournament. We run it exactly like ETC. We use all the ETC rules, and it traditionally has been a practice for Team Canada ETC. So it's fairly hotly contested, usually by a quarter of the field, and then for the other 75% of the field, they're really there just to have a great time, and it is great fun. You get sports points for like wearing the same shirts and giving gifts to your opponent and trashing people online, and so it's a pretty amazing event. And there's lots of people right now with the kind of pushing up in the profile of ETC in the last few years that believe that team play is the true ultimate form of Warhammer. And to some extent, that's probably true. And so this is opportunity to take part in a big team event. Russell Timmerman, welcome. He's talking on YouTube. He's just starting Custodes. Well, you're in the right place. But just by my own interest, our channel has turned into a slightly bent towards Custodes, and which is cool. So, so welcome. So, CanHammer Team Tournament is February 8th and 9th in Ottawa at the EY Center, the same venue we hold the Capital City Bloodbath in, so it's going to be massive. There's going to be plenty of space. 100 players is our current cap. There's going to be amazing lunch both days. It's $100 a player, so a 5-man team, so it's $500 for a team, and that is great value. We have hotel block right beside the venue, and is 10 minutes walk from the airport, although you probably don't want to walk from the airport in February in Ottawa. But so we got all that set up, and registrations for the event will open October 2nd, 8:30 p.m. EST. To register for the event, ideally, you should be a captain of a 5-man team, but if you think you're confident you can get a 5-man team set up, then you could just register and pay the $500. But you do have to sign up on BCP. We're using BCP signups this time, finally. You can find the event on BCP, either on the website, and it's linked in the event page, or on BCP Player app. You should be able to see it there. And once I open the registrations at 8:30 p.m. on October 2nd, you will be able to sign up for BCP and pay through BCP in whatever format you wish. So it's going to make things a lot easier for me. So do come out. We moved the venue. Obviously, last year was in Ajax, and this year we just decided that it was not reasonable anymore for us to cart terrain, 4 or 5 hours down the highway, and that with the success of TGX and things like that, we're not responsible for running Toronto's tournament scene anymore. So we are concentrating our efforts on making the Ottawa and Eastern Ontario scene as great as possible. And with Dan's 8 series P&P, which we'll talk about soon, the Canadian Shield returning, his other big major, which he keeps changing the name of, and with CCBB and CanHammer Team, Eastern Ontario is well served. So this is just consolidate everything locally for us. So that's CanHammer Team. There will be much more details to come about it. ETC apparently are next making a big change to their pack after Chapter Approved, which is not till November. So at the moment, we are still on old ETC pack that was played this summer. So those are your guidelines. You can find all that on the ETC website. But yeah, so get your teams forming. Sign up is soon, and it should be good. All right. Next thing I already mentioned was the P&P series. So Power Fist and Psychers was the series of RTTs, one-day events that we used to run fairly infrequently because it depended on me or Chris or both of us to be free. And now, of course, Dan at Red Dragon has taken over running the P&P and has already planned out 8 of them for the next year. And there is some talk that perhaps what we might do is that the winners of P&P, or that people can accumulate points over the series of 8 P&Ps, and whoever has the most points accumulate at the end of P&P gets a free ticket to CCBB. So either that, or we're going to run like a little bracket, and so the winners will play each other on an event on the Friday at CCBB or something like that. So we're trying to make the P&Ps kind of count towards something big at the end of the season. That's kind of the idea. But even in and of themselves, they're 3-round RTTs, 20 people, really good events, just local here in Ottawa. And you get a discount if you sign up for a season pass, which is like all of them at one time. So that's pretty cool. And big shout out to Dan for organizing all that. And the Canadian Shield, which is kind of the old traditional GT that used to be run in Ottawa, has been moved. It was in end of April. Now we've moved it to the original planned date, which was in November next year. Not November this year, November next year. So that'll be 3 big GT/majors in Ottawa every year, and 8 to 10 smaller RTTs. So that's plenty of tournaments. And then, of course, Joe's running CTC, and other people are running other events. So there's lots of stuff to do Warhammer-wise. So that's CanHammer Team and P&P series. So I hope that works for everybody. If people have questions about these things, of course, they can shoot us a message or message Stan at Red Dragon. If you haven't gone to Red Dragon, do check it out. It's kind of in flux right now, but the space is being set up. There's tables. People are playing stuff there all the time. I dropped back there on the weekend, and the dudes from Anvil of War were playing an apocalypse game, which was pretty cool. They had this like 4 tables put together. It was pretty cool. So it looks like it's going to be a good venue. It's got space for 25 tables easily. And so it's going to be a good place to hold these RTTs and GTs. So that's going on. So if you're in the Ottawa area, go check out the Red Dragon. Okay, let's get started. So timestamp is... Don't know what the timestamp is, but I'll figure it out and I'll put it in the comments below. So the Custodes Tactica starting now. So as I explained, this is by popular demand that we produce a series of blog posts or videos on frequently asked questions and tactics and thoughts on Custodes. So if you've been following our channel, you know that I have many battle reports on the YouTube channel featuring Custodes, going all the way back from when Custodes first came out, and more recently, fairly competitive ones against meta lists using my own list, and that's kind of where we're at right now. Certainly the last 6 or 7 games have been fairly competitive, kind of meta, pre-Space Marine games. So do check them out if you're interested. There's 2 ways of watching them. You can either watch the complete live stream overhead camera on Twitch with commentary and the players mic'd up, and you can of course fast forward. I wouldn't watch like all 2.5 hours of it. But that is the most useful if you're looking to think how we were thinking during the game. Or if you have less time, you can just watch the 20-25 minute digested battle reports that I produce from the live streams in that form. So there's a couple of ways by which you can digest the games that I've been streaming. I've had a number of podcast and CanHammer TV episodes with people like Shane and Eric talking Custodes, so do check those out as well. Those are very informative. I did one with Shane looking through the rules when they first came out as beta, and then another one when they were finalized. So that's great. And then a podcast with Eric, who came in, of course, Best General at CSBB with Pure Custodes. So this will be a series of live streams like this covering the full gamut of Custodes Tactica. If there's something I miss or something you really want me to cover, do let me know. Either write it in our Custodes chat or message me or send me an email, whatever you like. Do let me know if there's a specific thing you want me to cover, and I'll just make a list and I'll make sure I cover them. Hopefully it will be useful for people, and we'll leave it on YouTube on the playlist, all itemized out for people that can look at it at any time. The only thing I'll say is that this is for pure Custodes. We will not be talking about soup. This is for pure Custodes lists, and everything we talk about will be in the context of using Custodes as a pure army. There's a lot of potential to use Custodes as soup, although I feel like they're not great as soup because they're so expensive. With the Caladius tank as an exception, most people don't soup Custodes as a small force. Maybe they use mostly Custodes and soup other stuff in to support them. But we will be talking about pure Custodes because that's what we're all about here. So, we'll try and keep them not too long, maybe like half an hour or something like that. People in the chat, if you have things to chime in on, either thoughts, disagreements, comments, criticisms, whatever you like, put it in chat and we'll discuss it. And of course, if you have suggestions for things that you want me to cover, let me know. So, what would be Custodes? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about Bruce Gordon. Welcome. Hello from New Zealand. Right. You should be at work. So Deathwatch could be seen as anti-meta to New Space Marines. I think the best anti-meta for New Space Marines is actually New Space Marines. I think Space Marines kill each other very well. And you guys will deserve each other when you all start playing each other 6 times at tournaments. Russell Timmerman, we will cover the Agamatus when we get there on the unit walkthroughs. But if you want our immediate opinion right now, go check out the recent CanHammer podcast episode with me and Shane, where we go through the finalized rules, and we do talk about the Agamatus Custodes on that episode. So we're going to start off the Tactica with unit run-throughs. And, of course, so we'll go over all the units, starting with the Codex units, and then we'll get to the Forge World units. And what we'll try and do is just talk about the units, good things about the units, bad things about units, and how they play on the table, and how you might use them on the table, and how maybe not to use them on the table. And we'll try and be as impartial as possible. Obviously, a lot of this comes from play experience. Some of it comes from kind of herd experience, and some of it comes from experience from events and things like that. So we'll try and get all these things together. Yeah, High Marshals got into Custodes after playing Eric at TGX. Yes, Eric has been hitting the Canadian tournament scene, and I think it's been good for everybody. So Eric's a cool guy with possibly the deepest voice I've ever heard, and he's a great player and super cool. So it was great to have him at CCPP. Okay, so the first unit we have to cover, obviously, talking about Custodes, is the boss himself, Trajan Vallauris. Okay, so this is actually not the Trajan Vallauris model. I personally don't like the Trajan Vallauris model. I think it is a bit crazy with the wolf pelt and all that stuff. I also don't really like the Constantine Valdor model from Forge World. It's just got too much on it. The dude looks a little bit, I don't know. This is the limited edition Ixion Hail model that you get from Forge World at events. I just ordered it off eBay. And this is a much more cooler yet statuesque version that you can run as Valoris. All the Valoris models kind of look the same. And they're kind of old dudes with beards with big axes. And the cool thing about this is he brings his own stairs to the battle. So it's really cool that he brings his own stairs everywhere he goes. So anyway, so Valoris, of course, is the Captain General. He's the bad boy. I won't talk too much about the stats. They're fairly similar across the whole army. 2+, everybody moves 6 inches. 2+ weapon skill, 2+ ballistic skill, strength 5, toughness 5. He has 7 wounds, which is the same as a shield captain. And that used to be a lot, but now we have Space Marine characters all going to 6 and 7 wounds. So it doesn't seem that much anymore. Of course, leadership 10, 5 attacks base, and 2+ armor save with the 4+ invuln. So he has his rapid fire gun on his Watcher's Axe, which is strength 5 instead of strength 4, -1, 2 damage. So it's a little bit stronger than the normal Guardian Spear gun. And his axe, of course, is strength 10 in combat, -3, and unfortunately still D3 damage. If you play Custodes, you hate D3. D3 just sucks. It's a horrible dice to roll. It feels bad. Occasionally, you'll get a burst of 5s and 6s, and you'll feel, wow, D3s are amazing. But really, straight 2 is way better than D3, because sometimes you'll need 3 damage, and you roll a 1 and a 2, and you'll be like, ah. So I wish, because if they changed Custodes and everything was 2 damage instead of D3, that would immediately make us a billion times better. But anyway, so he's our buff man. For 185 points, you get your reroll 1s to hit, reroll 1s to wound, auras, and that's kind of his main thing. So he has a 3-up invuln, actually, because he has whatever it's called, Aura Might Halo. So he's fairly hard to kill and protected by character rules. So he's a pretty big beatstick. And with his 5 attacks, he can put up some damage. But he probably doesn't put out as much damage as you'd like in combat. He's no G-Man. And he doesn't look like he's anything like some of these new Space Marine characters coming out with 3 and 4 damage thunder hammers and shit like that. So that's the thing to keep in mind. He has a once-a-game ability to use his Moment Shackle to do one of 3 things. I can either regain D3 wounds that you lost this phase. Okay, so you have to decide right then and there in that phase to use it or not. You can use it to regain D3 command points when you've just spent them, up to the amount that you spend. Okay, and that can be useful, especially when you're playing the kind of list I play with only 4 CPs. or you can use them to file in and fight again at the end of the fight phase. Out of all of those, given my list, which only runs with 4 CPs, I almost always end up using it to recycle CP. So that basically gives me anywhere from 5 to 7 CP in functionality, not just 4. And so what I find, because I'm always saving 3 for teleport Homer, if I need to do a fight interrupt, I'll spend 2. I get at least one of those back, I'm good to go. Or if I need to do if I really need to do a stooping dive, I could risk it. And hope for that 2 roll on the D3, and you could spend a CP, but it's risky, but it does give you the opportunity to use 1 or 2 or 3 CP and still have 3 CP left for teleport Homer. So I would save your moment shackle for that, unless you're playing soup or you're playing a battalion, you got lots of CP. Even then, that's probably the most useful thing to use his moment shackle for. The healing is pretty situational. Generally, he doesn't take a lot of damage, and if he's taking damage, probably losing. And then the heal is it's just a feel bad. You're like, oh, I just took 3 damage, I got 1 back. That was such a waste. So I don't think I've ever used it for the heal. A couple of times I've used it to swing again when it was super, super important time in the game for him to kill something, but most of the time I use it for CP. So that's a bit of my tactica on using the moment shackle. Now, if he is your warlord, he automatically comes with the Champions of the Imperium Warlord trait, which is a 12-inch bubble which allows your units to heroically intervene. That is a great warlord trait. I did not see the full power of it until Eric showed me some shenanigans at Capital City Bloodbath, using the ability to heroically intervene even after you've been charged, as long as you're not based, just to get extra 3-inch movement. Basically, that's some shenanigans. So that is and then turning each of your units kind of effectively into a character for a short period of time. So I think that is a great warlord trait, which I now use exclusively, but although I don't use him as my warlord. So why don't I use him as my warlord? We'll talk about that when we talk about army lists, but generally, you can, but it just gives you flexibility to have somebody else. And you want somebody who's not going to give up Slay the Warlord, and probably the Vexilla is harder to kill with the -1 banner. And he tends to be more at the back, whereas Valoris eventually wants to get mixed in there. So he's kind of a buff bot and a bit of a beat stick. So that's kind of his general role. You can run him as your warlord if you like. So he, how I think he is, along with the Vexilla, the only 2 auto takes in Custodes. He used to be 225 points, I think, something like that. And so he was definitely not taken at that point level. But at 185, so 25 more than a shield captain on a bike, he is auto take. He does everything. He's hard to kill, and he has the CP regen, and the reroll 1 to wound aura is very useful. So I think he is one of only 2 auto takes in the whole book. So I think you start every Custodes list, whether you're running battalion or battalion list or whatever style you want to run, with Valoris. Even if he's your only HQ, then you go for Valoris. You can always find that extra 25 points in like a Custodes list. So auto take for sure. Now the trick with Valoris, of course, is he's foot. He moves 6 and can advance up to 6, but he's foot, so you really got to keep yourself in the auras, or you have to at some point make a conscious decision to take something out of the aura. So just be careful. Don't get too swing happy with him and charge him around places where you're going to leave auras. And of course, as a countercharge unit, he's fairly powerful when somebody happens to attack your base, or later in the game when you're starting to move up. So that's an important thing. Later in the game, when you can unleash Valoris, then very few things that are still alive at that time in the game can stand up to him. If you do end up fighting things, don't get bogged down in chaff, because he's only killing 5 people a turn. And watch out for smash captains. These guys are not that hard to kill with a Vindicare or these new crazy eliminators with like mortals on 5s and +1 wound and +1 hit and stuff like that. So we've got to watch out. Our characters are much more fragile now than they were before the Space Marine Codex came out. So losing Valoris early, it can be pretty horrible. So there you go. So that's basically kind of the unit run through on Valoris. I think he's essential to almost any Custodes list. Should definitely consider putting him in. If you're thinking about putting a captain on a bike in, you should think hard about having Valoris. I think those two together as HQs, so Valoris and a shield captain on HQ on bike, is a really nice combo, because the biker captain tends to be more quote-unquote suicidal. He's a great forward character to support your units going forward, whereas Valoris can stay at the back and stick with your Caladises and your backline. And they're both kind of pretty equally, killy. So those two are a nice combo, and those are the two HQs I run in my list, obviously. And he already has a 3-up, and so you give your 1 relic to your shield captain on bike, and now he has a 3-up too. So you have 2 pretty hard to kill characters. So basically, there's not too much more to say about Valoris. The key about Valoris, but it's the same with any buffing character, is to watch your range on your auras. You should be always measuring 6 inches constantly. Every time you move something, check it. Move something, check it. Move something, check it. It's such an easy mistake to make, especially when you're playing an army and you're newer to it, to leave your auras, or in the heat of the battles late in the game to leave your auras. Now, late in the game, you probably don't need to reroll 1. It's not that important anymore, but for sure earlier in the game, or if it is important, you gotta check your auras. The thing, and we'll talk about that with the Vexilla, it's really topical with the Vexilla, is a lot of Custodes lists kind of start off as a castle these days. When do you break your castle? And we'll talk about that when we talk about army tactics and army lists, but he's part of your castle, and so moving him up early is often key, so he's at the front of your castle, because he's not going to move as fast as like Gladius tanks and bikers and things like that. And you want to get him in position by about turn 3-4 to really start to contribute to the game, other than being a buff master. If he just sits there for 6 turns and buffs and gives things rerolls, that's still worth it. But 185 points, you want him to do a little bit more. But if he's a charge deterrent, that's also good. So, just watch out for that. We don't have a lot of screen generally in pure lists. We don't run a lot of bodies to screen stuff. So if you have just a character or 2 at the back and some tanks, watch out. Your character's going to get sniped off by things like flyers and stuff. So if you're playing against flyers and things, you got to watch out that you don't lose your characters to flying snipers. So just be careful about that. Paint Pot, Kieran, welcome. That's it's pretty straightforward. You don't have to spend too much time talking about Valoris. If people have any questions about Valoris, please post it in the chat. Why don't we compare Valoris to a normal shield captain? So a normal foot captain, because it's easy to compare to the flying bike captain. It's 25 points more. Bike captain moves a lot faster and has a hurricane bolter. But if you compare it to a normal foot captain, he's got an extra wound. And his weapon is stronger at strength 10. And the normal captain only gives you the reroll hit rolls, doesn't give the wound rolls. And reroll once to wound is nice on Custodes. So there we go. And then the normal shield captain will only have a 4+ save, unless of course he takes a storm shield, which you have to spend points on. And a normal captain is, I don't think I've ever used a normal captain, so I'm not familiar how to paint. 110, and then you add on some points. So maybe like 30 points cheaper, 30, 40 points cheaper than Valoris. So I think for the reroll ones to wound and the extra combat effectiveness, hardiness, I think I still stick by my opinion that Valoris is auto take over the other captain forms. Yeah, there are no specific stratagems with Valoris, but if you're running a vehicle-heavy army or if you're running a bike-heavy army, he may be one of only few sources you have for Tanglefoot. And Tanglefoot is one of the best stratagems in the game. So you definitely need nice to have a foot person in your otherwise non-foot list for Tanglefoot. Especially if you're using Palace or Caladius tanks to screen. That -2 charge is nice. What's better than -2? -2 plus D6. And that can really fuck up like Gene Stealer lists that are depending on that charge. Orcs. So Tanglefoot is so key. So often him and the Vexilla may be your only two sources of Tanglefoot. So keep that in mind and remember that when you deploy them, to deploy them in Tanglefoot range, but not so close that they might get charged. Yeah, anything that wants to get in, man, you just Tanglefoot. Knights, man. I had a knight fail a 3-inch charge because I Tanglefooted him and rolled a 6. Right, so it's just like, and the knight's like right there is like, But yeah, so Tanglefoot's so good. So if he is one of your only foot guys, you have to keep that in mind and deploy him appropriately. And use that. The guy, if your opponent knows that you have Tanglefoot and you've got this dude standing around, use him as a deterrent. That you can change the way people play. I'm not going to put my guys there because I don't want to get Tanglefooted. Use that to your advantage. And if they don't know or if they forget about Tanglefoot, you can also use that to your advantage. So it's definitely good, and it's good to have foot characters. The other thing is if you're playing vehicle or bike heavy, you might need a infantry to go into buildings and clear shit out. And he can definitely clear shit out. So that's another reason to run Valoris because he's foot infantry. Kieran, yes, Tanglefoot is a stratagem that you use at the beginning of the movement or charge phase of your opponent, and it reduces their move or charge by D6. So within 12 inches of a infantry model. So very key. And there's no line of sight involved either, so it's great. So that's other considerations about having some infantry presence in your list if you're running an otherwise vehicle or bike heavy Custodes list. So some people running like Triple Caladius, 2 Orions, stuff like that, or the 18 biker list still exists, especially in E2C format when we can't use the Forge World. So it's nice to have a couple of foot guys for Tanglefoot. Otherwise, I think that about covers it. When we will obviously be talking more about Valoris when we talk about individual lists and how to play those lists and army archetypes. So for now, we'll just stick to the sheet. And what we'll say is that we've covered Valoris as well as the normal foot captain in this Tactica. The other thing we can cover then before we go is the shield captain in Terminator armor. And then next time we'll cover the biker captain because I think he deserves his own little thing because the biker captains are so good. So the shield captain in the Terminator armor is basically like everybody else, but he has the extra wound and he has the ability to deep strike because he has Terminator armor. That can be good. And certainly if you have Valoris and you want to squeeze another captain in, but you don't have enough points for a biker captain, then the Valoris captain can be useful. And the ability to drop him in behind a unit of, say, homering, you homered in some Aquilons and now you drop in just at 9 inches to buff your shield captain, that can be pretty good. So that is definitely the second choice for HQ if you cannot afford a shield captain in addition to Valoris. So it does have use to be able to deep strike. Now you got to watch out. Like sometimes you might get over the deep strike limit because of how expensive your other units are. So you'd hate to run into that problem. But it can be useful to have a captain to deep strike in like that. But then once they're down, they're 6-inch moving foot guys. So it's a little bit of a disadvantage. I would still much prefer a shield captain on bike over a Terminator shield captain. So that's the only thing. The other slight advantage is they can take the axe, which is strength 8. I don't think that's a big deal personally, because the captain rerolls wounds when he charges on his bike. So it's not a huge deal, but that might be a small deal if you have no other way of dealing with, dealing out strength 8 or higher damage. So that's basically a quick run through of the shield captain. What I want to talk about before we finish, just talking about the shield captain in Valoris armor, is a little trick that I've not ever tried, but I want to, and maybe people can chime in on the chat if you've tried this. So what you do is you run the Praetorian plate. So this is a relic that has to go on a Terminator. So you put it on your Valoris captain, and you choose a friendly Imperium character that's in your army, and when that person gets charged successfully, basically, you can pop your Valoris captain in right next to it. He just teleports there to protect that person. And so in the old days when you could soup what's her name? The flying chick, angel woman. You guys know who, Saint Celestine. Yeah. So when you could people were souping in Celestine and stuff like that. So I saw it one time. One guy ran Celestine. Celestine got charged, and then from out of Deep Strike, because you can use it from out of Deep Strike, this Valoris captain appears with this Castellan axe and chops the other person, which they probably were not expecting. So that's pretty cool, if not extremely situational. And of course, that's not just one time. You can do it as many times as you like. So your captain can be warping around, but then he follows that character. So, it doesn't work in effect. But that would be pretty interesting. You could have a shield captain on a bike and this dude, and then your shield captain goes somewhere else 14 inches, charges in another 7 inches, and then next thing you know, this guy appears the next turn. Well, you could sort of tether him around with the Praetorian plate. So that's kind of an interesting combo that maybe I'll try out at some point when I'm running a foot list or something. But definitely an interesting relic that caught my eye a long time ago, and I just never got around to trying it out. Not one of our best relics, but might be interesting. Okay, so that is it. That is the first part of our Custodes Tactica series on Valoris, Shield Captain, Valoris Captain. Next time, we will cover the Shield Captain on bike. I think he deserves a little segment all to himself. If you want, a lot of my games and streams and battle reports will feature Shield Captains on bikes up to shenanigans. They just don't die. They go around killing things, shooting things, falling out, shooting things, charging things. They're so useful. And of course, they're OBSEC. So yeah, Shield Captains on bikes are definitely amazing. And initially, one of the few things that people would soup, they would put in a Supreme Command of 3 Shield Captains on bikes. So really cool. And so we'll cover that next time. Okay, so if people have comments about this episode and or things, as I said, that they want to see in the future, please let me know. Send us a message, write it on the Discord chat, however, get in contact with me. I want to make this as useful for everybody as possible. So I will endeavor to do my best to meet all demands. So, of course, if you have questions, please post up now as we move forward to giveaways. Okay, so as usual, we will be giving away things. These books are provided by Hoyt at Thunder Games and Gifts. Thank you very much, Hoyt, for continuing to support us. And we will be giving away Russell Timmerman. We can chat about that for sure. Just don't write it here because I won't remember. Send me a text or join our Discord chat or something, and we can talk about that. So we'll be giving away Space Marines, we'll be giving away White Scars, and giving away the Ultramarines supplement. Okay, so as usual, what I will do is ask a skill testing question, and the first person to answer the question correctly in the chat, and you can chat on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, will win, and then I'll just mail it out to you, and that's it, free. So so get ready. Get in your chats, get everything ready to go, and we will be doing this very shortly. So keep in mind that if you're chatting from YouTube or Facebook, there is a slight delay of a few seconds before it shows up in my Restream chat. So just saying, for the fastest response, you might want to be in the Twitch chat. Okay. Skill testing question. Yes. Okay. And to celebrate the launch of the Custodes Tactica, these 3 skill testing questions will be from the Custodes book. All right. So the first one. Let's see. The first one will be the Ultramarines supplement. All right. So the first book we're giving away is the Ultramarines Codex supplement for Space Marines. So the skill testing question is, first person to write it correctly in the chat wins. On Terra, underneath the palace, there is a jail where the Custodes, the Shadow Keepers, keep all the most horrible things that they capture in the universe. What is the name of this jail? So what is the name of the jail underneath the Imperial Palace where the Shadow Keepers keep an eye on all the most horrible monsters and demons and psychers and things that they've captured throughout the years? What is the name of this jail? And Kieran gets it correct. The Dark Cells is correct. And it actually features quite nicely in the book, that book I read, where they actually, somebody escapes from the Dark Cells. So, Kieran, you have won the Ultramarines supplement. Kieran, you know how to reach me. Just give me your address. I'll send it out to you. Okay, so I think the next thing we will give away is the White Scar supplement. All right, just let me find a good question here. Okay. So, the next skill testing question for the White Scars supplement. Oh, so before we do that, what do people think of like the Asian dude on the cover of White Scars? The Mongolian, let's just call it what it is. The Mongolian dude on the cover of White Scars. So I know that they're supposed to be Mongolian. That is their inspiration. And that is as Mongolian as I've ever seen an illustration of the White Scars. So, well, it's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. I don't know. What do people think about the cover art? I personally don't like the cover art for any of the supplements, but that's just me. It seems like out of keeping with 40K art in general, but whatever. It's just my opinion. Okay, so for the White Scar supplement, the skill testing question is, everybody loves the Vexilla and the Vexilla Magnifica, which of course gives us -1 to hit against shooting. But what is the name of the Vexilla that gives all Custodes models an extra attack? The Vexilla what? That gives us all an extra attack, which I don't think I've ever seen anybody use, including myself. Vexilla what? Gives us +1 attack. It's not the Defensor, that's the 5-0 Invuln aura. What is the +1 attack, Vexilla? I need to get something. Russell Timmerman said Imperialis. It's close. close, man. It's close. All right, it is in fact Imperius, not Imperialis. It's Imperius. So how do you spell Latin? Oh well, it's a matter of accuracy, you see. So I'm gonna give that to Bizarre 40k Beast. His first one to type correctly, the Vexilla Imperius. So you have won the White Scars Codex supplement. Bizarre 40k Beast, you know where to find me. Just message me and send me your details. All right. So obviously the people who have already won cannot win anymore. So the final thing up for grabs is the Space Marine Codex. This monster of a book. Hopefully whoever wins this does not live too far, so it doesn't cost me an arm and a leg to mail it. But, you know, such things happen. Okay. So, final question. Name the warlord trait that makes your warlord -1 to hit. Name the warlord trait that makes you -1 to hit. Your warlord -1 to hit. I've also never used that. The warlord traits for Custodes are pretty good. Of course, we got the one that lets you deny, which is great with a +1. That's a great warlord trait. We got the Feel No Pain, and we got the Champion Imperium. So we have really good warlord traits. All right. Russell Timmerman, you got it this time. Radiant Mantle. I'll give it to you, man. You know you didn't spell it right. There you go. All right, Russell Timmerman, you have won the Space Marine Codex. Congratulations. I felt bad not giving you the last one, so, you know, you had to win this one. Russell Timmerman, just message me with your details, and I will get that out to you. All right. 3 books. Woo! Giving away left, right, and center here. Okay. Just message us on Facebook. Message me on Facebook. That's probably the easiest way. Just find us, CanHammer, and you'll be able to find us there. I do encourage everybody, if you're into Custodes, to join the Custodes Discord chat on the CanHammer Discord. Let me know on Facebook if you need the link to that. I will gladly share it with you and spread the word. We'll try and make this the hub of Custodes chat on the interwebs. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Do join in tomorrow, 9 o'clock. I'll be streaming Paintin's final game in Ottawa as he brings his Orcs against my Custodes. It'll be the first time I try my new Custodes list post Forge World rules, and so it should be very interesting and a nice game to watch. So do join in tomorrow night. And otherwise, next week we'll feature the next episode in Tactica, where we cover shield captains on bikes. And otherwise, thank you everybody for watching.